Look, what if I told you something most men completely misunderstand in relationships? When she starts replying slower, when her energy feels different, when she stops chasing you the way she used to, you immediately assume one thing: she's losing interest. But what if that's not the truth at all? What if she's not pulling away because she's gone, but because she's watching? Not consciously, not in a planned way, but deep inside her psychology, something far more subtle is happening. She is testing something most men don't even realize they are being tested for: emotional stability. Not your looks, not your money, not your words, but your internal control when her behavior changes. Because attraction doesn't just come from attention. It comes from certainty under emotional pressure. And the moment you panic, the moment you chase, the moment you start overthinking every message, you fail the test without even knowing it began. But here's the deeper truth. She didn't change. She just stopped performing emotional consistency to see if you would break. Emotional pain, the silence that feels personal. Let's go into the emotional reality of this. You wake up, check your phone, nothing. You send a message. See no reply. You wait. 1 hour becomes 3. 3 becomes a day. And your mind starts building stories. Did I say something wrong? Is she talking to someone else? Did I lose her? And this is where most men start collapsing internally. They send another text. Maybe something casual like, "Hey, are you okay?" But deep down, it's not casual. It's anxiety disguised as calmness. Then something interesting happens. The more you try to fix the distance, the more distance you create. Not because she is playing games, but because she is observing something very important. How do you behave when you don't get immediate emotional reward? Because in real-life relationships, attraction is not built in comfort. It is revealed in uncertainty. And your reaction in that moment, that silence, that emotional gap, that is where she begins to read you. Not your message, but your emotional state behind the message. And if she senses urgency, panic, dependency, something inside her quietly shifts. Not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Because emotional instability signals one thing to the female subconscious: this man cannot hold himself together under pressure. And attraction begins to weaken silently. Psychology insight: she is testing emotional stability, not playing games. Now let's remove all emotional storytelling and go into pure psychology. In relationship dynamics, especially in early or developing attraction stages, there is a subconscious evaluation process happening. This is not manipulation. This is human nature. Both men and women test each other differently. Men test loyalty. Women test emotional stability. And here, what emotional testing actually looks like in behavior: delayed replies, sudden emotional distance, reduced enthusiasm, less initiation of conversation, neutral tone instead of warm tone. On the surface, it looks like disinterest, but psychologically, it functions as a stress test. She is observing. Do you become anxious? Do you demand reassurance? Do you overtext? Do you lose your center? Or do you remain grounded? Because attraction is deeply tied to perceived emotional leadership. Not dominance, not control, but calmness under uncertainty. If you react emotionally unstable, her subconscious interprets it as, this person is not anchored. And when a man is not anchored, a woman cannot fully relax into attachment. Because attachment requires safety. And safety is not built through words. It is built through behavior under emotional tension. Now here is the key misunderstanding. Most men think she is losing interest, but in reality she is checking. Can I feel emotionally safe with this man long term? Power shift. When you stop reacting, everything changes. Now let's talk about the moment everything shifts. Because there is a turning point in every dynamic like this. It happens when the man stops reacting emotionally. Not in a cold way, not in a manipulative way, but in a grounded way. He replies when he wants. He does not chase explanations. He does not overanalyze silence. He does not try to fix emotional distance. He simply continues his life. And something interesting happens here. The same behavior from her suddenly changes meaning. Before, silence equals rejection. Delay equals disinterest. Distance equals loss. After, silence equals normal. Delay equals neutral. Distance equals irrelevant. Because the man is no longer emotionally dependent on immediate validation. And now the power dynamic shifts. Not because he is controlling her, but because he is no longer controlled internally by her behavior. This is where attraction often reignites. Because now she senses something different. He is not reacting the way I expected. And that creates curiosity. And curiosity is the foundation of emotional re-engagement. But here's the important truth. This is not a technique. This is not a trick. This is emotional independence. Stoic lesson: you do not control the wind, only your sail. Stoicism teaches something very relevant here. You do not control external behavior. You only control internal response. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Now apply that to modern relationships. You cannot control when she replies, how she feels moment to moment, her emotional fluctuations, her level of attention. But you can control your reaction, your interpretation, your emotional stability, your self-respect. And this is where most people lose power. They try to control what is not theirs. They try to fix silence. They try to decode every message. They try to restore certainty in something that is naturally uncertain. But Stoic masculinity is different. It says, I will not collapse emotionally because someone else changed behavior. And ironically, that stability becomes attractive, not because it is performed, but because it is real. Because emotional strength is not loud. It is quiet. It is not reactive. It is steady. And steady energy creates safety. And safety creates attachment. The deeper truth: she is not confused, she is reading you. Let's go deeper than surface psychology. When a woman is emotionally invested, she becomes highly sensitive to emotional signals. She notices tone shifts, response timing, energy changes, attention consistency. Not because she is playing games, but because emotional consistency predicts long-term relational safety. And in those moments where she becomes distant, she is not disappearing. She is observing. Because what she really wants to know is, who are you when I am not giving you constant validation? That is the real question. Not do you like me, but are you emotionally stable enough to handle real intimacy? Because real intimacy is not constant excitement. It is fluctuation. And only stable individuals survive fluctuation without collapsing. Common mistake: over-explaining yourself. Now let's address a critical mistake most men make. When they feel distance, They start explaining themselves. They start proving, I care about you. I'm not ignoring you. I was just busy. Please don't misunderstand me. But hear what happens psychologically. The more you explain emotional presence, the more emotional absence you signal. Because secure individuals do not over-explain their stability. They demonstrate it through consistency. Over-explaining comes from fear. And fear is what gets detected. Not words. Emotion behind words. And the paradox is, the more you try to prevent losing her, the more you display that you already feel like you are losing her. REBULDING the frame, the calm man energy. Now let's reconstruct the mindset. A grounded man does not interpret silence as threat. He interprets it as space. He does not chase emotional fluctuations. He observes them without losing center. He continues. His goals, his discipline, his health, his purpose, because his emotional state is not outsourced. And this is where perception shifts. Because now, even if he speaks less, his presence feels stronger. Not because he is doing more, but because he is needing less. And neediness is what collapses attraction faster than anything else. Strong ending. She was never testing you to break you. So let's bring this full circle. She is not losing interest. She is not playing mind games. She is not trying to confuse you. She is doing something far more human than that. She is trying to understand emotional safety. And in that process, she observes your reactions. Not to judge you, but to understand whether your emotional world is stable enough for connection. But here is what most men never realize. The test is not designed to break you. It is designed to reveal you. And when you understand that, you stop reacting. You stop chasing. You stop overthinking silence. Because now you see it clearly. Not as rejection, but as information. And the moment you stop emotionally collapsing, you become rare. Not because you are pretending, but because you are finally grounded. And in a world where most people react emotionally to everything, calmness becomes attraction, stillness becomes power, and emotional control becomes the strongest signal of all. I am not dependent on chaos to feel secure. And that changes everything.